Hey there, everybody. So, I know we had some technical issues today, so I thought that I would go ahead and redo our lesson from today on introduction paragraphs for any of you students that may have missed out and need to make up the marking period for day 3, Wednesday, December 16th assignment. So, here is our lesson for today. Um, so this week we have been working our way through the writing process. On Monday this week, we read through the text Theseus and the Minotaur, which is a fiction story, right? It's a folk tale, a Greek myth. And then we also read through our writing prompt, which tells us what we are supposed to be doing for our literary analysis essay. Now that we have read through Hey, it's not letting me go back. Now that we have read through the text and the writing prompt, we are done with step number 1. Then we moved on to step number 2, which is what you guys should have completed yesterday for the week 4, day 2 assignment for Tuesday, December 15th. Yesterday, we wrote out our thesis statement, which is a sentence that explains exactly what we're supposed to be doing for our essay. And then we came up with our 3 magic points, which focuses each of our body paragraphs and what we are going to be writing in each of those individual paragraphs. And then we were able to collect evidence for those 3 points. So you should have already done your thesis statement and selected your 3 points and collected evidence for it. Okay, if you did not do step 1 and you did not do step 2, then you are not ready to move on to step 3 right now. So if you're watching this and you did not hand in the Tuesday thesis statement and evidence graphic organizer, you are not prepared to start writing your introduction paragraph. Keep that in mind. All right, so now that we can check off step 1 and step 2 from our list, we are on step number 3. We are going to begin our rough draft, starting with our introduction paragraph. So, what are we doing in our introduction paragraph? So the one thing I want to explain to you about writing an essay before I even explain to you how to do an introduction paragraph is this. When you are writing an essay, whether it is a literary analysis task essay, a research simulation task essay, or even like a narrative essay like we learned in the first marking period, when you are writing an essay, you have to assume that the person reading your essay doesn't know anything. Okay, they know absolutely nothing at all. You have to assume that when you're writing your essay, you're writing it like as if you were doing a performance, right? You assume that you have an audience. When you're writing, you need to go out of your way to over-explain things, right? You have to assume whoever's going to read your essay is not Ms. Hernandez, right? Because obviously you're going to think, well, Ms. Hernandez, she read Theseus and the Minotaur, so I don't have to explain anything about that story. Or she knows what I'm talking about. She knows that what happened in that paragraph, so I don't have to cite it word for word directly, right? No, don't do that. You have to write your essay as if a complete stranger is going to read it. That way you are very thorough and you explain everything that you're going to be talking about, okay? And the reason why I'm bringing this up for introduction paragraphs is because in your introduction paragraph, you need to introduce the topic of what you're going to be talking about. And you need to make sure you're over-explaining things for the reader so they know what the topic is, right? What the essay is going to be about, what happens in the sources that you read and the reader did not read, so you need to explain it to them. And then specifically what you're going to be proving in your essay using your thesis statement, okay? So it'll make a little bit more sense in a moment. So our very first paragraph of our 5-paragraph LAT essay is our introduction. We can write an introduction paragraph in 3 easy steps. Okay, step 1, you have to give an interesting writing hook. So we did talk about writing hooks in the first marking period when we did narrative essays. So it's the same concept, right? The purpose of a writing hook is for you to start your essay, right? To start your writing off with something interesting to hook in the reader and make them want to read your essay. Okay, so it has to be interesting, it has to be on topic, and it has to kind of invite the reader in to want to read your essay and involve them. Okay, so you have to do something, either giving them an interesting fact or ask the reader directly a question that they can wonder about that's on the topic, and then you can kind of shimmy your way into talking about what you're going to be writing in your essay. So that's step one, writing hook. Step number two, right, depending on how many sources the essay prompt, right, the writing prompt is asking you to use for your essay, you should summarize the sources for the reader. Okay, luckily for you guys, this first essay that we're working on only has one source. It's just Theseus and the Minotaur myth. So all you have to do is just in 1 or 2 sentences, briefly explain the plot of the story. Okay, because you don't want to just dive into your body paragraphs and start talking about how Theseus snapped the Minotaur's neck, right? That would be kind of intense. So you want to briefly and just gently kind of sprinkle in some details about what happens in the story. Just give the plot. Okay, remember, when you're going to give the plot of a story, you can do it in just 1 or 2 sentences if you just name who's the main character, where did it take place, what was the setting, and what was the conflict in the story, and you can even go ahead and add how it ends. Okay, so just 1 or 2 sentences. Excuse me. And now in paragraph 3, in the step number 3, the last thing you have to do for your introduction paragraph is write out your thesis statement. And what's great is that if you already did step 1 and step 2 of your writing process, on that essay graphic organizer, you already have your thesis statement. So you're just going to copy exactly what you wrote on your graphic organizer and plug it into your introduction paragraph as your last sentence. Okay, you're going to see that you're going to be able to do this super fast. All right, so this is the worksheet that you guys are going to have to submit for the Wednesday, December 16th assignment. This is a graphic organizer to help you write out your introduction paragraph step by step. Okay, so remember, step number 1 is to write out your writing hook. And a writing hook is an interesting sentence starter that is on the topic that will hook in your reader and make them want to read your essay. Step number 2 is to summarize your source in just 1 to 2 sentences, maybe 3 if you really can't help yourself. But guys, do not write a full-blown summary. This should not be like a 10-sentence introduction paragraph. We just want to be brief. Let the reader know what's up and move on, right? Especially because you're going to be talking about it throughout your body paragraphs. So you just want to give them a taste of the story in the introduction, and then throughout your body paragraphs, that's when you're analyzing and really going in depth. So you don't want to kind of, give too much away there, because then your introduction again is going to be like the whole essay just in 1 paragraph. And then your third step is just to rewrite your thesis statement. And to remind you, a thesis statement is a sentence that states your opinion or your claim, right? What you're trying to prove in your essay, as well as your 3 points, right? So if you want to make a thesis statement super thorough and super specific to let the reader know exactly what you will be doing in your essay, you should mention what your claim or opinion is that you're going to prove, the 3 points specifically that you're going to make as a topic for each of your 3 body paragraphs, and you should include what the source title is. So specifically, we're talking about Theseus and the Minotaur. All right, and then once you're done with these 3 steps, you're going to rewrite it all down below in 1 complete, flawless, seamless paragraph. All right, so we know that the essay prompt is asking us to do 2 important things with Theseus and the Minotaur. It's asking us to identify a theme that happened within the story, and it also wants us to explain what was the author's approach in teaching us the theme, right? What was the author's approach in developing the theme throughout the story? So in your essay graphic organizer, you guys had identified 3 things. You said the author of the text was able to teach us the theme through the characterization of the characters. So that should have been point number 1. A second point you brought up about how the author teaches the theme was through the narrator, how the narrator tells the stories and those little kind of side comments and remarks that the narrator makes throughout the story. And the last point was that the author teaches the theme through the So my brain starts to slip. The resolution, right? The very ending of our story is how we also see what the lesson is, because usually lessons are revealed to us at the end of a story. And all right, so let's keep it moving and see. So this is what it would look like, right? So if you're going to write an introduction paragraph and you're going to start with a hook, it would be easy enough to just ask the reader a question and then answer the question yourself, something that's on the topic. Okay, we're talking about Greek mythology, we're talking about ancient Greece, we're talking about Theseus and the Minotaur. So a good question to ask that's like general enough that we can start general and end up going more and more specific. You could just ask the reader, have you ever read Greek mythology? Right? And then once you ask that question, you should start to kind of answer it or explain about the question, right? Have you ever read Greek mythology? Well, in ancient times, the Greeks created stories about gods and goddesses to explain the world around them. For example, there is the story of Theseus and the Minotaur. So see, guys, we just started with a general question that's on topic. We know that's something that we're going to have to mention and talk about in our essay. So, have you ever read Greek mythology before? Well, if you haven't, let me explain to you what Greek mythology is. It's a type of genre of back in ancient Greece when the Greek people were trying to explain the world around them, and they made up these stories about the gods and goddesses. Well, now that we're on the topic of Greek mythology, let me tell you about a specific one that I've read. It's called Theseus and the Minotaur. Boom, guys, I've hooked you in. I sounded so interesting. I made you want to read what I'm talking about, okay? So now that we kind of hooked them in, your next step is going to be to summarize these sources. So to summarize the source, simple enough, you're going to start with what is the source called? Well, Theseus and the Minotaur is a story about a prince named Theseus who travels from Athens to Crete to defeat King Minos' Minotaur and protect his people. Although, oh my gosh, I just realized I wrote Perseus. That's a mistake, guys. Please disregard. I'm even getting our stories crossed. Although Theseus defeats the Minotaur, the gods end up punishing him for his selfishness. So, if you see here, I mentioned who the protagonist is. It's Theseus. Where did it take place, right? It took place in Athens and in Crete. And then I said what the conflict is, right? The Athenians are being killed by King Minos' Minotaur, so he travels from Athens to Crete to go defeat him, right? And although he was able to defeat him, he ends up betraying Ariadne along the way and punishing him for his selfishness. This is just an example, not even a perfect example. You can see I made a little mistake there with putting the wrong name. You guys can try to summarize it in whatever way you prefer. Again, if you want to just try to do it in one sentence, if you want to do it in 2 to 3 sentences, it's fine, but just please keep it brief, guys. If you wanted to mention about Ariadne specifically, like what her name is, or about Aegeus, his father, who ends up jumping off the cliff, by all means. Don't feel like just because I wrote this down this way, you have to follow exactly what I said. Just follow the instructions. All right, guys, the last step here is to just rewrite that thesis statement. So again, our thesis statement always begins with, today I will be, and then explain what you're going to be doing based off of the writing prompt. So you're going to say something like, today I will be writing an essay that explains how the author used characterization, the narrator, and the resolution to develop the theme of the gods will always punish you. Boom, done. Our 3 steps are over and done with, and just in that short amount of time, in those 3 easy steps, we were able to write out our entire essay. So that's pretty much it, guys. That's how you would work on your introduction paragraph. Start with a hook, give me a brief source summary of Theseus and the Minotaur, and then rewrite your thesis statement all together in one concise and flawless paragraph. And that's that. So hopefully you guys understand. This is what you guys missed out on today. I'm going to post this video up in Unified Classroom and maybe on Class Dojo so your parents can see. And that's it. So hopefully you guys can get that done. Remember, you got to do steps 1 and 2 first, the Monday and Tuesday assignments from this week in order to do this assignment. And I'll see you guys on the flip side.